Hello, my name is Sarah Horton, and today our group will be talking about the Code of Justinian, or the Corpus Juris Civilis. The Corpus Juris Civilis was a codification and interpretation of the opinions of the greatest Roman jurists by committees overseen by Emperor Justinian of the Byzantine Empire between AD 529 and AD 565. The sections we will be covering today are focused on family and property law. These laws can show the values most prized in that culture. They present the purpose of the law as to live honestly, to hurt no one, and to give everyone his due. They divided laws between the public to protect the interests of the empire and the private to protect the interests of the individual. One of the primary values presented is that of family. It states that marriage is an indivisible bond. It also places great value on the patriarchal division of power within the family, saying of a man, "The child born to you and your wife is under your power." Private property was also under the control of the patrimony. It also places great value on a man's word in business transactions. It says, "The contract of sale is formed as soon as the price is agreed upon, although it has not yet been paid or even an earnest given." This does not necessitate a written contract, but in transactions with a written contract, the contract must be extremely explicit so it will not be lawfully subverted.
Hello, my name is Bethany Bailey, and I will be talking about what you can discern from parts of the law in the medieval Byzantine era. You can discern a lot about a nation or a kingdom by their laws. You can tell what is important to the citizens and how they live their lives. In the text that we read of the law, there are different sections, or there are different parts of the law that talk about different aspects of life and the things that were important enough to write laws about. The first section covers justice and law, things like what you should and shouldn't do to individual people. This covers like what you, as a singular person, mostly talking to the men, should and shouldn't do, and kind of what your rights are. The next section talks about family and parents. We see from this text that family is very important to the Romans and their way of life. Like, women got married and they were allowed to move in with their husbands, of course, and then their children were no longer under the protection of the woman's father, unlike the men. Like, when men had children, their fathers were also responsible for those children along the line of men in that family, and they all lived close, I believe. I don't think it actually says that, but I believe that was stated. The next section tells about things that everyone gets to own. I think this is kind of funny that they made a list, but the things on the list are air, running water, seas, and seashores. These are things that no individual can own. They have to be shared. And if you were to build a house like by the seashore, that house was yours, but the land wasn't yours, and you couldn't own it and be like, no one can trespass or fish in this area or anything like that, because those were things that everyone should have access to and did have access to at that time, because that was how they got food. That was very important. Fish was a big part of their daily diet. These laws also tell us about trading and selling and selling and buying portions of things and land, and how everything had to be like written down. And this was very important because trade with the Romans and like different countries really was a big part of their culture and civilization back then. So that is all I have. My closing sentences. So this part of the Justinian laws paint a pretty clear picture of what life was like in the Byzantine era. That's all I have.
Okay, so for my part, I did the question, how does the law code compare to the other law codes we've talked about in class? And my group did the Code of Justinian, and to other laws and codes being mentioned, you notice quite a few similarities in the law codes. For example, in the Code of I can't ever say it, Hammurabi, yeah, it shows a law that many people go by, as if like a man steals an ox that he must pay 30 times its value, and the range from family law to professional and admirative law often outlines the differences in standards of justice for the three classes of Babylonian society: the property class, freedmen, and slaves. And so they just go by, like, that's how they go by to live, I guess. But in a way, there are similarities to both, but they have differences in the way you interpret them. In the Code of Justinian, it's like more of a moral intake. So like, it's like how you live, and it explains more of like your personal level and meaning, and how you can apply these things to the way you live and act upon these things, forcing them on like a more personal level, rather than applying it to three social standards like the Code of Hammurabi states. So yeah, that's just how I see it.